property defects. Now, this is something that has been raised by a lot of people in the last couple of weeks. There's a few articles out about it. There's a little bit more talk about it. So, and it rolls into our material fact issues, because property developers obviously are continuing to sell off the plan apartments, even though the New South Wales Building Commissioner has slapped out some orders to address defects. And with these defects, real estate agents are required to tell potential buyers about the defects. Now, the response that we hear back from most agents is, well, how on earth do we know that the defects are there? We don't know about these things. Well, you're supposed to know about these things. It's about what an agent should know or ought to know. So, there hasn't been a lot of talk around this. And, these powers were actually given to the New South Wales Building Commissioner last year. So it's quite difficult to find information, or it has been quite difficult to find information on. Even when you go to the Fair Trading website, it's a little bit of digging to actually find where those orders are, but you can find them. So, in fact, there's, what are we in August? So since December last year, so we're looking at 8 months, the Building Commission has actually put 5 prohibition orders on projects across Greater Sydney in the last 8 months. So, it is happening out there. Now, we all know that as agents, you have a legislated obligation to disclose material facts about a property or something that will affect the decision-making capacity of a person. So how do you actually find out about the defects? Now, you can ask a developer. Now, when you sign up an agency agreement to sell an off-the-plan development, and it might only be, 4 townhouses or a dual lock, or, it might be very small, in a regional area, ranging through to something with 365 lots in it. In one of the inner city, or Greater Sydney developments. So, and it's actually a possible breach of our disclosure laws for agents who are selling a project not to disclose issues. So you might ask that question at the point of listing the property. And of course, there are no defects at that point. They haven't even demolished the buildings that were on there. You might be signing up right at that stage, or you might be signing up and they've just leveled the buildings that were there and they're just about ready to dig. So, it's not up out of the ground yet. So, it's a question that you need to keep asking. However, there is actually an easier way. So because those, if there's a prohibition order on a property, that obviously prevents a developer from settling on any sales. And that's going to come back on you as a salesperson to, your purchaser are going to come back and say, well, why didn't you tell us about this? Why didn't you tell us? Now, our purchaser doesn't get that you didn't know about it. It wasn't disclosed to you. Well, there is an easier way. So how do you search for them? Look, the easiest way, because it takes a bit of a find on the Fair Trading website, you've got to go through the help centre and then through some orders in there. And, so it's a lot of clicks to get down to it. But if you actually just do a search on the internet for Building Commissioner orders, really simple, it takes you to that actual page. And the page relates to the residential apartment buildings, compliance and enforcement powers orders. Okay, and it's a register. And it actually lists out, it's so clear and it's really easy to understand. So I'd suggest that if you're selling off the plan properties, that you keep doing regular checks. Save that as a favourite on your computer, and keep doing regular checks as a salesperson to that site when you're selling off the plan properties. And obviously, if something comes up, you'll be going back in and telling any of your purchasers about that. So that's dealing with property defects. Now, and as I said, it really is. It's a material fact. It's something that will, affect people from buying, particularly if you're right at the end of a build, or the developers at the end of the build, obviously, and you're selling it. So, and you now know that there's an order, a prohibition order, or some other type of order on the property. You need to know that when you're discussing that with your potential purchasers. So guys, that's something we actually will do our newsletter on this topic. So give you a lot more detail this week. So it comes out on Friday. So our fortnightly newsletter, it'll have the links in there. So if you didn't get that down, that's okay. You just make sure you have a look at this week's newsletter and that information will be in there. So that's it on the property defects off the sales properties.